So in today's video, I am going to be comparing the Sol-Ark 15K all-in-one hybrid inverter to the Flexboss21 hybrid inverter from EG4 paired with their Gridboss. Now I'm in a unique position to be able to talk about both of these inverters because I have them both hooked up and have been running, well, one, the Sol-Ark's been running my whole house for over 2 years, and the Flexboss21 that you see behind me has been powering my 2-story workshop, which is lights, power tools, 2-ton air conditioner, and I also have an SO cord ran from this Flexboss21 inverter all the way back to my 4-ton traditional AC on my house just to push this thing hard, and I've been pushing it hard all summer. So I can speak from real-world experience to both of these. Now keep in mind, I am not sponsored by EG4 or by Sol-Ark. I only have 13,000 subscribers on this channel, so they're not exactly lining up to throw a bunch of money at me to do this. This is purely from my personal experience and what I have seen. Now, if you could help me by subscribing to this channel, I would appreciate it. So hit that like button, subscribe if you found this content to be useful. And if you are interested in purchasing either of these inverters, the Sol-Ark 15K or the Flexboss21 with the Gridboss, I do have free wiring schematics to each of these that you can download if you are interested to make that install more easily for you. Now I'll have links to those in the description of this video, or you can go to flexboss21.com to download the one from EG4, or you can go to solarpdfdownload.com to download the one I have for the Sol-Ark 15K. Now before I go into my experience running these two inverters and which one I believe it may be best for you, I want to go over the specs of each of these so you can kind of see a head-to-head comparison on how they do, at least from the specs that the manufacturers tell us. So let's get into that now. So I put together this spreadsheet that goes into kind of a side-by-side comparison. So let's just go through this really quickly. Now, they're both 240 volt split phase inverters, and you got the Flexboss and the Gridboss highlighted in yellow there at the top, and the Sol-Ark's on the right side of the screen there. Now, they're both 48 volt battery agnostic inverters, which means you could set any 48 volt batteries to lead acid mode and just run them off voltage without an issue. Both of them do have a 200 amp grid pass-through. Now the Sol-Ark has that embedded in the inverter itself. The Flexboss21 from EG4 actually only has a 90 amp pass-through, but if you're going to hook it up to your house, it's really made to be paired with the Gridboss, which does have that 200 amp pass-through. So the reason I'm comparing both of these and not just doing the Flexboss21 compared to the Sol-Ark 15K is because with the Sol-Ark 15K, you're going to need a 200 amp disconnect, and you're also going to need a bypass. So you'd have to install those separate. The Gridboss actually comes with those included. So I do believe it is fair to combine the EG4 Flexboss21 and the Gridboss and stack that up against the Sol-Ark 15K directly. So these are both hybrid inverters, which means you can use them on grid or off grid. Now here's where we start to see a difference. The max recommended PV, or the amount of solar panels you could hook up to the Flexboss21, EG4 recommends 21,000 watts. Now the Sol-Ark 15K, the spec sheet they have shows 19,500 watts. Now the reason I didn't highlight that in green on the EG4 side, which when I highlight it in green means there's a little bit of an edge on that on EG4 over Sol-Ark or vice versa. Now the reason I did not highlight either of those green is because the Sol-Ark 15K spec sheet has changed so many times when it comes to what is the max amount in recommended watts on there. I've heard as much as 23,000 watts you can put on it, and I've seen as little as like, I don't know, it's 19,500, which is what the spec sheet shows right now. So what's true, I'm not sure. The spec sheet right now does show on their website 19,500, so that's probably what I would go with because that is the most up-to-date information. So now let's move into the next category there, the max DC voltage that you can send from your solar array to the inverter. The Flexboss21 allows up to 600 volts, and the Sol-Ark 15K allows 500 volts. So there's a slight edge there, which is why I highlighted it in green on the Flexboss21 and Gridboss side. So you can do a little higher voltage on the Flexboss21 than on the Sol-Ark 15K. Now, how many MPPTs or charge controllers do each of them have? The EG4 Flexboss21 has 3, the Sol-Ark 15K also has 3, so very comparable there. Now here's where we start to see a little bit of a difference, is in the max amount of amps that each MPPT can handle. Now on the Flexboss21, it has 2 MPPTs that can handle up to 26 amps, and then the other one can handle up to 15 amps. Now the Sol-Ark 15K, all three of those MPPTs can handle up to 26 or use up to 26 amps. So Sol-Ark has the edge when it comes to that. Now next is the max allowed PV plus battery power to your loads and AC outputs, basically charging your batteries as well. Now the EG4 Flexboss21 can do up to 16,000 watts. So it can use up to 16,000 watts at a time to your loads or charging batteries. Now that's when solar is present. Sol-Ark 15K maxes out at 15,000 watts, so slight edge goes to EG4 when it comes to that category. So it's slightly more powerful there. Next one is max power from battery to your AC loads. That's when no power is present. Here is where they are both identical at 12,000 watts max. So no advantage of either one there. Can they both surge high enough to start a 4 and 5 ton air conditioner? Yes, they both can. Now I can say that I have only started a 4-ton air conditioner on both of those units. I have never tested them up to a 5-ton traditional AC. I do not have one. So all I can say is clearly that yes, each of them can start a 4-ton traditional air conditioner without the use of a soft start. Now what's the max charge to the batteries? So the Flexboss21 can do a max of 250 amps charging your batteries, and the Sol-Ark can do up to 275 amps. So there you get a slight edge with Sol-Ark. The warranty is both the same at 10 years. They're both UL listed, so you can get them permitted for inspections. They're both NEMA 4X outdoor rated, so you can mount them outside. Of course, you don't want to put them in direct sunlight, but they can be mounted outside. They are waterproof. Now the operating temperature, Sol-Ark does have a little bit higher. They go from negative 40 Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And the operating temperature for the EG4 Flexboss is negative 13 Fahrenheit to 140. So the Sol-Ark 15K can handle a little bit more colder temperatures. They're both very efficient. As you can see, the CEC efficiency is 96.9 for the EG4 Flexboss21, and it's 96.5 for the Sol-Ark, so very tiny edge goes to EG4 on this one, but not by much. Can you AC couple? That means, can you send AC power from your solar panels? For those of you that have microinverters, have an older solar system, you'll probably have microinverters up there on each panel, which converts that DC power from your solar panels to AC power. So the question is with these inverters, can they handle that AC coupling or send AC power to the inverter? And for the EG4 Flexboss21, the answer is yes, as long as it's paired with the Gridboss. You can do that. Now the Sol-Ark 15K, yes, you can do that, but you actually use the use of your generator port, because that generator port will have to be used for those AC coupled solar panels. So you do lose that. With the Flexboss21 paired with the Gridboss, you do not lose the generator port. So slight edge, in my opinion, goes to EG4 on that. Actually, that's probably a pretty big edge. Now, is there an LCD screen on these units? So with the Sol-Ark 15K, yes, it comes with an LCD screen. It's right on the center of the front cover. Now with the EG4 Flexboss21, that is a separate add-on that you can get, and it costs around $100 and $150, somewhere in that area. So slight edge goes to Sol-Ark right there. So now let's get into cost. So the EG4 Flexboss21 plus the Gridboss combined, it costs right now about $6,200. And this is in August 2025, so obviously that could change, especially with all the tariff craziness. Now the Sol-Ark 15K right now by itself costs $6,250. So slight edge when you just compare those side by side, but also keep in mind that the Flexboss21 paired with the Gridboss, you do have that transfer switch and that, or the bypass switch and that 200 amp disconnect that you're gonna need to pass permitting. So that comes with it. Now with the Sol-Ark 15K, you're gonna have to buy those separate plus installation. You're probably looking at an additional $2,000 there. So that's a pretty big edge that goes to EG4 when it comes to that on the cost side of things. Now I have installed both of these units myself personally. So what I can say is when it comes to ease of installations here, that next category, I would call the EG4 Flexboss21 and Gridboss about a 6 out of 10. Now I am not a licensed electrician, though I did work for an electrician for a couple of years and learned quite a bit, but I certainly didn't learn everything. And I was able to install this relatively easily. I call it about a 6 out of 10 when it comes to how difficult it was. Now the Sol-Ark 15K, a little bit more difficult, having to put that 200 amp disconnect switch in. Seemed to have to do a lot more rerouting of my big heavy 3/0 cable or wiring that was coming from my meter. So I would call that probably a 9 out of 10. So I'd give an edge to EG4 on that, mainly because of that Gridboss. The Gridboss does simplify that installation in my opinion. Now, how hard is it to parallel a second inverter with that if you wanted to? So when it comes to the Sol-Ark 15K, it is quite complicated. When it comes to wiring two of those things together, that's my opinion. When it comes to EG4 with the Gridboss, there's actually a separate slot on the Gridboss with another breaker to just plug in another inverter. So it's very simple when it comes to paralleling. So I'm going to give the edge to EG4 definitely when it comes to paralleling a second inverter. Now, do these units have smart ports? The next category there. The EG4 Flexboss21, when paired with the Gridboss, it has 4 different smart ports. Now, those smart ports you can control, turn them on and off, or have them turn on and off automatically. So let's say you can hook up a pool pump to one of those. And if there's not enough solar present, you can program it to where it just automatically shuts your pool pump off. So that is a really neat function that you get when you have the Gridboss paired with your Flexboss21. Now, Sol-Ark, does it have a smart port? Yes, it has one, but again, you're going to take up that generator port. So you can't AC couple and use the smart port at the same time, or the generator. You have to choose one of the 3. You can either use it as a generator port, you can use it as a smart port, or you can use it for AC coupling. But you can only use one of those, while the Gridboss can do all of those at the same time. So again, the edge there goes to EG4 in my opinion. They're both high frequency transformerless inverters, so no difference there. Now, how long have each of these units been in the field? Well, the Sol-Ark 15K, it's been out in the field for about 3.5 years, so it's got a lot of experience. They've worked out the bugs when it comes to whatever they've ran into, so a lot of field experience there. The EG4 Flexboss21 and Gridboss, that's only been in the field about 9 months. Now, I got this right when it came out, so I have been running it for almost that entire 9 months. So the edge there is going to go to Sol-Ark with experience when it comes to how long these things have been in the field. So when it comes to the mobile app, I'm going to give them both a 2. They're very simple to use once you have them set up. EG4 is a little bit more difficult to get it initially set up, in my opinion, which I'll go into a little bit later in this video. So maybe the slight edge goes to Sol-Ark on that, but not by much. I definitely wouldn't make my decision on which one I was going to buy based on the app. There's not that much of a difference. Now, when it comes to the percent of the time the customer service answers the phone during business hours, at least in the last 12 months from my experience, if you bought it through Signature Solar, which is who I recommend, I get 100% of the time I have somebody answering the phone I can speak to in the last 12 months. With Sol-Ark, that has not been the case. I would say it's about 75% of the time I can reach someone, at least over the last 12 months. That is kind of the basic spec teardown. Now I'm going to get into really what my experience has been with both of these inverters and which one I actually recommend. So first off, let me say both the Sol-Ark 15K and the EG4 Flexboss21 paired with the Gridboss have been excellent performers for me. I have literally had very little issues with either one, and I think I can confidently say that either of these systems you are going to be happy with. Now, no company is absolutely perfect. You're going to see complaints on both sides from both Sol-Ark, EG4, but overall, I do believe both these companies are doing a great job when it comes to servicing customers and the quality of the products. Now I'm going to go over what's been frustrating with me for both of these companies over the last couple of years that I've worked with them. Now, when I first purchased my Sol-Ark 15K, they were using a third-party app called PowerView Pro, which seemed to work okay. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it certainly did the job. Now, Sol-Ark then wanted to take the app in-house, so they released their My Sol-Ark app, and that was probably, I don't know, maybe that was a year ago or so. And that rollout did not go well, especially for me. There was quite a few issues. A lot of people were upset with them during this rollout. They clearly didn't try like a beta test on just like some inverters and see how it goes. So they kind of botched that. Now, one of the notifications that was really helpful to me that they got rid of, and a lot of people complained, but they just never brought it back, was the one when the grid went down. So if you lost grid power, which for me is my backup power for my house, we used to get a text message. So a notification would go out and it would say, hey, grid power's down. Which is great because then I could say, oh, if grid power's down, well, let me make sure I power off some of the larger loads I really don't need just to make sure I can extend my batteries longer. Well, to this day, it's been, like I said, about a year since they released that new app, the My Sol-Ark app. That's still not there. So it's clearly not a priority. Now, not the end of the world. Everything still functions fine, but it's been a gripe for a lot of people. So the biggest issue I had was when they released that My Sol-Ark app. Now, keep in mind, I have a 19,200 watt solar array. So I'm trying to get that max 15,000 watts that's usable power that the Sol-Ark can use. I'm trying to get that for multiple hours a day. to run my loads, charge my batteries. Well, when they rolled out this My Sol-Ark app, it actually started clipping my solar power at 12,000 watts. So basically, when I could be bringing in 15,000 watts, it would just max out and it would just clip the rest. I could only use 12,000 watts. Now, I called Sol-Ark about this multiple times, and it took them probably about 3 to 4 weeks to get that fixed. Which to me, that really frustrated me. I missed out on a lot of power during that time period. And frankly, it just didn't seem like a priority to them. I mean, they knew I even make videos on the Sol-Ark 15K. I mean, really, it didn't matter to them. So, I mean, not that I'm a big fish. Like I have, like I said, about 13, almost 14,000 subscribers. I don't blame them for not making it a priority. But still, that was frustrating to me that it was kind of like, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. Now that eventually did get fixed, and everything's been fine since then. But that one stung a bit. Now, another thing with Sol-Ark was when I initially purchased my Sol-Ark 15K, and you'll see it in my actually earlier videos on my channel, their customer service was amazing. I mean, they blew Signature Solar out of the water when it came to customer service. Every time I would call, I'd get answered. They were very helpful. Everybody was very knowledgeable. Now, that has definitely gone downhill in my opinion. Like I said earlier, I probably get a hold of somebody now when I've called, which has only been a couple times over the last few months, but I would say it's about 75% of the time I feel like you get an answer at this point. So, and you have to leave a message and they'll get back to you, the next day or the day after, but it still seems like it's gone a little bit more downhill. Now, this is my opinion. I can't verify this with anybody, but I do think since EG4 rolled out the 18K PV inverter, which directly competed with the Sol-Ark 15K, because at the time the Sol-Ark 15K was the only inverter that really did that 200 amp pass through. That was a game changer, which is why I originally went with Sol-Ark over EG4. But once the 18K PV from EG4 got rolled out, it seems like a lot of market share probably got taken, especially by the DIY, or the DIY community started going to EG4 based on better pricing and getting pretty much the same specs with the 18K PV. It does seem like when that 18K PV from EG4 got rolled out, it hurt market share with Sol-Ark. So it almost seems like they started backing away maybe from the DIY residential community and started more focusing on the commercial installers or the commercial projects out there. Now, again, this is just me spitballing. I don't know that for a fact. If you're from Sol-Ark and you want to comment on this video, please go for it if you think I'm wrong. I'm just saying this is the feeling that I've gotten being a customer of yours. So that's my opinion on the customer service. Now, they still do great customer service. It's US based, so I still think they're a great company. Now, another thing, when I initially purchased my Sol-Ark 15K, I got EG4, the LL 48 volt batteries. And the reason I got that was EG4 claimed that they could closed loop communicate with Sol-Ark. So that's why I actually bought those batteries, because I mean, I could have went with one of Sol-Ark's battery partners that they recommended, but those batteries were a lot more expensive at the time. I mean, probably almost double the price that the EG4 batteries were. So I went with EG4. I closed loop connected them, and then I started seeing a discrepancy in what the LCD screen said and what the Sol-Ark 15K said on the screen. So I called Sol-Ark and they said, you need to disconnect that battery from closed loop right now. And I was like, why? I thought the EG4 claims it can't communicate with you. And they told me, no, that's not true. They are not a battery partner of ours. In fact, we've seen EG4 batteries actually change settings on their Sol-Ark inverters, and if any of those settings change or it damages something, we're not going to cover it under warranty. So that's what the rep told me over the phone, and that kind of freaked me out. So I immediately disconnected that, just put it in lead acid mode, and it's been running fine ever since. It's not that big of a deal. Now, would I rather closed loop communication? Absolutely, I would have. Would that have changed my purchase in the beginning? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to think on that more. But that was frustrating to me, that I thought I could go closed loop and then I couldn't. So that has been a little frustrating. Now, is that a Sol-Ark problem or an EG4 problem? I mean, I guess EG4 did not work directly with Sol-Ark. And if you're from EG4 and you could comment on that from the beginning, because you guys did claim that you could closed loop connect to Sol-Ark inverters, I don't know. I would love to hear an explanation on that as to why you could at first and now you can't. Now, there's probably bad blood between the two companies, I'm guessing, because of that 18K PV rollout that competed with the Sol-Ark 15K. But in my opinion, these are both great companies. Sol-Ark and EG4 are great companies. I think there's a lot of synergy there between Sol-Ark inverters and EG4 batteries, and I wish they could work that out to where they could work together, but right now it's kind of a Ford versus Chevy, I guess, argument. Like, you either love Sol-Ark or you hate EG4 or vice versa, and I'm not one of those guys. I think they both produce great products and you'll be happy with either one. Now let's move on to the frustrations I've had with EG4. Now, getting the Flexboss21 connected, actually any inverter from EG4 connected to their mobile app, is a process that is way more difficult than it should be, in my opinion. You almost have to like log out of your EG4 account, connect the inverter, and then log. I mean, it's a very strange process. I even had to call Signature Solar and have them walk me through it. And I'm a pretty smart guy when it comes to this tech stuff. That definitely needs to change. I think if they could add Bluetooth connectivity, like for instance with EcoFlow or Bluetti, they both have Bluetooth connect, so you can take the app and within like seconds, I mean, it just pairs itself. It's awesome. So if EG4 can do that, I think that would be a very nice improvement. But again, once you get it up and running, it's done. It's a one-time call. It takes 5 minutes over the phone with them to help you walk through it, which is why I do recommend that if you're doing this DIY, work with a company like Signature Solar, who's got that good customer support to help you through these type of questions. Now, another issue with EG4 is once you have the inverter up and running on the app, you'll notice when you just go back into the app, oftentimes it just locks up, it freezes, or it says error, and you have to close out of the app real quick and go right back into it. Not a big deal. I mean, it works right after that, but I still think that's something they can fix to where if I was in the app before, I just clicked right back on it, it just refreshes and works. So that is something I think they can work on. And really, that's the only frustrations I have had with EG4 and this Flexboss21 and Gridboss thus far. It's just worked perfect for me. So, and I also have a lot of my subscribers who are on my email list who have purchased this system. And I've had one of them recently tell me they had an issue, and that they've had an issue and they had to ship back their Flexboss21 and they're getting a new one. But besides that, I've had a lot of people who have used my affiliate links buying this EG4 Flexboss21 and Gridboss, and I haven't heard, literally only one person that I've heard had an issue. So that's a pretty good batting average in my opinion. So it has worked great for this last 9 months. So after that long-winded conversation I've had with you thus far, which one do I actually recommend? Now again, I think if you bought either of these systems, the EG4 system or the Sol-Ark, you're going to be very happy with your system. It's going to perform as you would like, run your whole house. Well pumps, I've had no issues. So there's that. Now with the EG4 Flexboss21 paired with the Gridboss, you're going to get those smart ports, which I do think are definitely a plus. And you're going to get that generator port, AC coupling, and not lose out on that generator port. So I do believe that's a big win that leans me towards EG4 when it comes to if I had to start over, which would I do? Now the EG4 Gridboss has that 200 amp transfer switch. You're going to have to buy that transfer switch separately for the Sol-Ark 15K. I mean, if you're trying to do this to sell back to the grid or use the grid as backup, you're going to have that to pass permitting. So you're going to want that extra bypass switch or transfer switch, and you're going to want that 200 amp disconnect. The Gridboss covers both of those if you buy them, and that's included with your purchase. And again, it's even a little less expensive to purchase the Flexboss21 and the Gridboss rather than just buying the Sol-Ark 15K as of the way prices are right now here in August 2025. So it's going to be a little easier of an install with EG4 over Sol-Ark, in my opinion, and the cost savings are quite large. Now, my estimate is if you bought a whole home system, batteries, using EG4 batteries, using the Flexboss21, the Gridboss, if you just bought all the materials and everything, you're probably going to save, let's say you're doing a 30 kilowatt hour battery storage. My estimate is you're probably going to save about $5,000 to $7,000 by going with EG4 with the Flexboss21 and Gridboss, and you're going to get those smart ports and the generator port and all those extras that I talked about that the Sol-Ark 15K wasn't going to have. And you're going to get a little bit better customer service if you're buying this through Signature Solar, the EG4 equipment through Signature Solar, than you're going to get through Sol-Ark's customer service. Now, not by much. Sol-Ark's still good. EG4 has just improved dramatically over the last year and have added a ton of people. So I can confidently say you're going to be pretty happy with their customer support. And if you're not, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your comments on that and what your experience has been. Now, if you're an installer and you work with Sol-Ark, my guess is you're probably getting even better customer service because obviously you're a commercial customer of theirs. They're going to really take care of you. You probably have someone special assigned to you for questions. So when it comes to being an installer, My guess is your customer service is probably awesome, and you would say I'm wrong when it comes to Signature Solar being a little bit better than Sol-Ark. But I am trying to compare, like, for residential DIYers is the angle I'm taking in this video. And if you're an installer, I mean, these systems, if you're pricing out an installer, which I do know an installer here locally that I do refer people occasionally who don't want to try and build a system in the Central Texas area themselves, and they want an installer to do it. I mean, for a 30 kilowatt hour battery bank with the EG4 Flexboss21, Gridboss, or Sol-Ark, I mean, you're looking at $50,000 to $75,000. That's how much a system like this costs installed if you're doing about a 10,000 or 10,000, 15,000 watt solar array. So an extra $5,000 or $7,000 for an installer to put into the system for using Sol-Ark, not as big of a deal, I guess, when you're packaging in it something that costs that much. You know, 50 to 75,000. Is $5,000 or $7,000 really a deal breaker for a homeowner willing to spend that amount of cash? Probably not. So installers, if you're working with Sol-Ark right now and you love it, I mean, you could probably stick with them. It's not going to make that much of a difference on your bottom line. Now, if you're a DIYer, that $5,000 or $7,000, that would have meant a lot to me. So my recommendation then is, if you're a DIYer doing this yourself, I think EG4, the Flexboss21, and Gridboss is the better option to go with. You're going to save a lot of money, have more functionality. Now, people may claim that, again, Sol-Ark is more of a industrial or commercial grade product compared to a residential grade with EG4. Well, most of our purposes are to run it in a residential setting. So it has a 10-year warranty just like the Sol-Ark. So we should be good there. So I lean more towards EG4, the Flexboss21, and the Gridboss from my experience, from a cost saving and the functionality that you're going to get. That's really where I land, guys. I'd love to hear your comments. I know there's going to be a ton of you who disagree with me, but I'd love to hear why. This is just my experience using both systems myself. And in fact, how many of us, because I'm an affiliate of both. So I see people who buy both these systems using my affiliate links, and I can tell you it's probably a 20-to-1 ratio that people buy EG4 over the Sol-Ark 15K in my affiliate links. So that tells me right there that people lean more towards EG4, and I don't see a lot of complaints in that aspect as well. So, but again, if you're using Sol-Ark or you're going down the process with Sol-Ark, you'll be happy with that. I can pretty much guarantee you it's a great system. Don't listen to people who say Sol-Ark suck and only go with EG4, and don't listen vice versa also. They are both awesome companies to work with, and they have good products. So that's it for now, everyone. Let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video so more people can see it, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.